once the decisions was made in the Brown v. Board to integrate schools, my parents, as well as my friends' parents in the neighborhood, all shared with us that we were going to have to go to a different school. And because at that time we all went to the same school, and it was Charles Sumner, which is not there anymore, of course. And they told us we were going to have to go to Longfellow School.
Now, what was Charles Sumner?
It was on 22nd and Charlotte.
Okay.
In fact, they tore it down and they built, what is it, Brotherhood of something or Brothers something. But they tore, it was a beautiful school too. And so we said, okay, like we had a choice. And we all, we all walked to school together that day and went to Longfellow, because we'd never heard of Longfellow School, although it was in the district, but it was not, a school that we could go to. And at that time, I think I went there for the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And most of us were, then we had, my neighbor across the street was in the 3rd grade, so we were kind of about 3rd grade through the 6th grade, I think, of those of us who went. And we didn't have a problem going to the school. We just went and did what, like the way we normally act. None of us were kids that would be getting in trouble or anything. We all did our lessons and all that. So we just went, but there were just, and I don't know exactly how many of us there was. Maybe, I know one in the 3rd, and there was about 2 or 3 of us in the 4th grade, and a few in the 5th, and a couple in the 6th grade that went. Okay, being one of the first to integrate Longfellow School, I think the children, and we always say this, that, children don't have a problem with other children. You just have to be careful with, it's the adults that usually cause the problems. This is something that I remember very well, and I can still see the lady now, is that one of the, because there were neighborhood schools, so one of the girls that went to school with us, grandmother used to come during recess, and she would be on the other side of the fence. But in the beginning, wasn't too much said, but then towards the end, she would tell stories to her grandchildren and other kids, white kids, of how things used to be and how blacks were treated. Now that did create a problem, because we had gotten along fine until then, but when you're saying you draw a line and we couldn't cross the line and all, that was a problem. The problem has been for Kansas City Public Schools mainly is that there hasn't been a levy passed in a very long while. And once the schools were integrated, then you begin to have the white flight first. And then you got black flight. And then the business communities didn't support the school district, because the school district's predominantly black. So you don't have the support of the business community as we had in the past. So I know that was part of the problem as well. It's just like everybody left us, Right. But I know that the magnet schools was, at that time, was supposed to have been, they had hoped would be something that would, and there were new buildings and everything was new, that was supposed to have helped the schools a lot. Well, of course, the NAACP was very concerned about the integration of the schools and supported the integration of the schools. And then another thing we're concerned about is the charter schools, because the charter schools are coming in, and the problem with them is that they can turn you down. They don't have to accept all the children that come to them. So our concern is that we keep our public schools funded, and that we have a high quality public education for young people, because even if they go to a charter school, and the money follows them, and then if they decide that they're pulling down their scores and they want to, remove them, they can do that, and then they come back to the public schools, and the funding doesn't come with them. And so we are very supportive of a high quality public education. And at the time when the Department of Education was trying to take over the Kansas City Public Schools, we worked very hard on that to make sure that didn't happen, because we felt it's important that you have an elected school board as which you can hold accountable, rather than having takeover, and then those school board members would be appointed and would not be as accountable to the community. So, so we're, as I said, we're very supportive of a high quality public education. And we're concerned about qualified teachers, because in a lot of instances, teachers are not teaching in their field. And that makes a difference as far as for the education for the children. If they're educating in one area and they're teaching in another, then the children are not getting the education that they should. It did change the community quite a bit. Now there is a question as to whether that was such a great idea. But it did change, because now we don't, it took away a lot of the neighborhood schools. And prior to integration, for those of us who attended schools, because of what was going on in the world at that time, you had really teachers that were overqualified teaching public schools, that had PhDs and had, most of them had their masters, and some had PhDs or were working toward them. So we got a very good education. We were taught by really the best, but because they were not able to teach in other schools, they taught in the schools that were for predominantly black. So, and that's something I think young people today are missing, because that was an education that that was like a private school education, that you didn't have to pay for. So
I talked to some of the graduates from Lincoln, and they talked about
right,
how many degrees and how many of their teachers had PhDs.
Right. See, I graduated from Lincoln. And then what was interesting also about it was those of us who went to Longfellow, we were supposed to go to Westport High School. And so we all said, oh no, we're going to Lincoln. And so our parents got special transfers for us to go to Lincoln, because, that's kind of a legacy in the family, because everybody graduated from Lincoln. And I said, I'm not going to be, I'm the last one, I'm the youngest, and I'm not going to graduate from Lincoln. Oh no, I'm not having that. And I am so glad that I did, because I had an opportunity, because even in elementary school, your teachers were really overqualified as well. But when you got to high school, you had teachers that were really, really overqualified. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, some of the changes I think is that, number one, the community needs to support the schools and support the teachers. And that we should, and the parents need to be involved. And that's kind of mainly what I think should happen. And so that, and we should make certain that we do have qualified teachers who are teaching, and they are teaching in the subjects that they are trained in. And and experienced teachers. And that was another thing you got years ago. Your teachers were experienced. Mm-hmm. They had many years of experience. They have this Teach America deal. Teach for America, which I don't think it's a good idea. Mm-hmm. And because they don't have the experience or anything. And then I think teaching in the urban core does require a special type of teacher that is that understands. And I think that might be where a lot of problems are. And then number one, two is that teachers who care for the students. That's important, that we can get qualified teachers and that really care and want to see the children succeed, because that's one thing we knew for sure, that our teachers wanted us to succeed, because they told you that all the time, and they would say, I will not let you fail. So that was important. Well, I think now, as far as school integration in Kansas City, we're seeing it now kind of go back to where it's not really, we're not really integrated. Now, the only really integrated schools you could say is probably Lincoln. It's about one. And so that's a concern, you know, that we're trying, it's like we're going backwards, and we're not as integrated as we could be. But I think if we have quality schools, then people will go, because as you know, some of the charter schools that are in the urban community, people are sending their children there. So as long as we can make, it would be good if we could have all of our schools to be high quality, and where students would come and go to those schools from all over the city. I think they would be willing to do that.
What has to happen in the community for that to happen, you think?
I think the community has to take an interest in this, and really be concerned, and let the schools know, the district and all know that we are concerned, we are watching, and that we are here to help. And if there's anything that we can do, anything that they need us to do as a community leader, that we'd be willing to do that.